Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, and we're doing the Holiday Collection Specials. This is episode 4, and our subject today is this lovely plant in a 4.5-inch clay pot, which is typically how they're presented at the market unless they're in those new, fancy, sexy, custom-made resin pots. Alright, sorry, cheap advertisement. I couldn't help myself. But anyway, this plant before you its scientific name is Adenium obesum, commonly called the desert rose. Now, I've done a video on this before, but this time I have some new information. And this variety is Picotee Pink. I mean, you gotta love that name. Well, anyway, the first thing you need to know about desert roses is that they are in the family Apocynaceae, which is commonly called the dogbane family. Now, that doesn't mean much to people who don't know plants, but for those of you out there who really appreciate plants, Apocynaceae means that it is related to Mandevilla, Pachypodium, Oleander, and Plumeria. Now, Mandevilla is that sort of annual vine that you buy at the nursery every year that has the big red and pink flowers. Pachypodium is a Madagascar palm. It basically is also a coniform, just like the desert rose, except instead it has long narrow leaves at the top, and its entire trunk is covered with a layer of pretty wicked looking spines. It's very pretty. I actually like them quite a bit just because they're so classy. But then there's Miriam Oleander. Yes, that oleander, the poisonous one with the triangular stems that sorta is hardy in zone 8B sometimes. I mean, it takes frost damage and it may come back from the roots, but it's a lovely plant. The smell of the flowers is amazing. And then Plumeria, which I think some of you would know as that plant that you think you've seen in Hawaii. Nice plant. The flowers aren't scented, but it's a gorgeous plant and it's fun to grow. It also, if I recall correctly, is a semi or full-on caudiform. Now, we're going to get to what that means in a moment. The desert rose is native to Africa and parts of Arabia, specifically peninsular Arabia. So that's where Africa and Arabia touch, essentially. Okay? It's hardy in USDA zones 10 through 11. It prefers a soil pH of 6.5 through 8. Its exposure is full to partial sun or bright direct indoors. Okay. Its height can be 3 to 10 feet, and its width can be 3 to 5 feet with age. These plants are a serious bonsai thing. If you look up a desert rose, you're going to see pictures of people who bonsaied them over boulders and little trays and all kinds of stuff. And they're gorgeous. Their flowers have a sort of faint scent. It's pleasant, but fleeting. Now, I mentioned that it's called desert rose, but what I haven't mentioned is its other common names. The Sabi star, kudu, mock azalea, and the Impala lily. I like that last one, the Impala lily. No, kids, not the car. Anyway, now, caudiform. Basically what that means is the trunk is swollen, and that is technically the succulent part of the plant. It's used to store water and nutrients for periods when there are no rain, because it'll suck out all the water it can when it gets a brief rain out there in arid climates, so it can survive when there is no rain. Which is kind of cool. It is a succulent, not a cactus, but it survives. Now, why I like them is they kind of remind me of baobabs, the tree that people say is upside down. It reminds me of that, which also technically is a really big caudiform. The trunk is called the caudex, by the way, C-A-U-D-E-S. Now, it does have one pest, and that is the polka dot wasp moth. Specifically, that critter's caterpillars. But that's one heck of a name, the polka dot wasp moth. And it's basically a moth that kind of looks like a wasp, except it's black and it's got dots on it. Look it up. It's crazy looking. It looks mean, but it has no stinger. It's again, it is a moth that's mimicking a wasp, and in this case, this is nature's own defense mechanism called mimicry, where it is attempting to mimic something else to get things that might eat it to leave it alone. It's very clever. Now, I'm just going to point out, the sap in the roots is very toxic to the point that in some places, the sap is used to coat arrows to hunt big game, and used to poison fish so that folks can get an easy meal. Fall and winter, specifically water once per month. Absolutely must follow this. If you see any signs of trunk rot, which is basically the same as root rot for this plant, cease watering immediately. If there are any open and obvious spots, locations of rot, you can try to arrest it by using a little bit of rooting hormone powder, which may get the plant to form a callus, and it may dry out the bacterial advance completely. No guarantees, but I've done this before and it has worked. It is noted that this plant does not like temperatures below 50 degrees. However, I've grown them in somewhat colder temperatures, so that's variable, really. Some are more sensitive to it than others. I would take precautions just in case. It is recommended that you fertilize once per month in spring and summer with a reasonable balanced fertilizer. You don't need a cactus-specific fertilizer because all fertilizers are basically the same. There's really no difference. It may need some additional nutrients, micronutrients, but it doesn't really need fancy care now. What's great about these plants is that they are easy succulent with low maintenance needs. They do require a bit of light, which is fine. My specimen is actually sitting in the kitchen underneath a grow light that is on for, I want to say, 10 hours a day, which is more than enough to simulate sunlight. This specimen is actually prettied up in a 4.5-inch clay for the market, and this is the size that you would be getting if you bought one from me. Now, what makes these plants special is, of course, the flowers. The flowers are amazing. You can really see when it blooms why people call it mock azalea, because they do kind of look like azalea blossoms. However, this plant lends itself readily to bonsai, and putting it in artistic pots with gravel and little plastic huts and little, the little figurines that you can get for displays over at like AC Moore or somewhere, it really does lend itself to that because it looks like a miniature tree. Again, they're fairly easy to grow, they don't require much, and as far as I know, aside from the roots, I don't think their parts are poisonous. They are not in the Euphorbia family, so you don't have to worry about milky caustic sap. I would take care in handling them when pruning because I'm not sure what the photosensitivity level for the sap is. But beyond that, that's all you need to know. I do recommend this, and I believe that's all I have for you this time. Now, folks, if you like this episode, please hit the like or subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, please do. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them down below in the comment section. I will answer as soon as I can. I'd love to hear if you have a desert rose, what you do with it. Oh, forgot something. Desert roses come in a wide variety of colors, usually whites, pinks, and reds, though I've seen many bicolors. They're almost like Christmas cacti, but they're not photosensitive for blooming, so a little easier to deal with. And that's really, I swear, all I have for you. So folks, thanks for watching. Thanks for getting us to 100 subscribers, almost 150 now probably. And as always folks, keep them growing.